last time someone took your breath away? I met him in improv class. We were already 10 minutes into class when he walked in. Black leather jacket, black beanie, swaggering in late, not even realizing he was late. "Where do you want me to be?" he asked the instructor, before he looked my way and grinned. His hazel eyes twinkled, and my heart pitter-pattered. I felt as if my breath had been taken away. He's the one, I thought. And a decade later, as I was walking down the aisle towards him, my heart pitter-pattered, and I thought, yep, I was right, he's the one. Throughout our relationship, my husband continued to take my breath away. Not always for a good reason. We had drastically different upbringings. I was raised by parents with a lot of expectations. They'd say, work hard, don't be lazy. Go to an Ivy League, become a doctor, lawyer, engineer. Always put your family first. Greg, on the other hand, was raised by parents who were his perennial cheerleaders. They'd say, pursue your dreams. Do what makes you happy. You've got a good heart. That's what matters most. I was raised through criticism, Greg through encouragement. So it's not surprising that we had different values, beliefs, and ways of navigating the world. At first, our differences felt doable. It wasn't hard to teach Greg to take off his shoes before entering my parents' house, or to eat everything my mom cooked and say, that was delicious. And it was easy for me to put on a Packers shirt and cheer for them on game days. Our differences were easy to navigate until they weren't. One day, in the midst of a conversation about our life plans, I found myself breathless. I was gasping for air. My body shook uncontrollably, and I could hear Greg's voice, but it felt distant, and then I blacked out. I later discovered I had my first panic attack. I was 5 months pregnant. We had just returned back to the US after a 1.5 years of living and working nomadically. Everything we owned were in the backpacks on our back. So upon returning, we had big decisions to make in a short amount of time. Where and how we were going to settle down. On top of all that, Greg was without a steady income. For most of our early relationship, I was the breadwinner. But now with a baby on the way, I needed things to change. But no matter how much I pushed Greg to just get a job, I felt like he resisted. And I couldn't see any progress being made. The financial pressure, the uncertainty, that's what led to my panic attacks. And when the pressure came, I felt fear. I couldn't understand why he couldn't work harder, get a job, put the family first. And that fear blinded me. So I could only see two choices. Either he works harder and gets a job so we could support our family together, or we continue the same pattern of me working hard alone to support us. And seeing only two choices, I wanted to control the outcome. So I threatened him the way my parents used to threaten me as a child. Either you get a job now, or you stay out of my and the baby's life until you do. My threat didn't work out the way I'd hoped. He responded with hurt and avoidance. He needed my encouragement the way his parents had encouraged him. He needed me to trust in his capability to do what needed to get done. But I wasn't giving him any of that because I couldn't see things from his perspective. My ultimatum caused an even greater rift in our relationship. And I began to question, are we even going to make it? The thing is, when our differences in values and beliefs present a challenge, we often believe that we have to make a choice between the relationship or to compromise our values and beliefs in some vital way. During a session with my coach, I expressed my frustrations. I said, I feel like I have no choice. Either he gets a job or I give in and let him continue to be lazy while I work hard, and that doesn't feel fair because I'm exhausted. And she looked at me and gently asked, where might the both ands be here? Both and? This was the first time I had heard of this idea of both and. You see, when our differences lead to conflict, many of us will instinctively head into an either-or thinking. It's hard for us to see the possibility of a both and because we can only see two options, often two extreme options. For example, as an executive coach, I work with a lot of clients who struggle to say no. And often beneath the struggle to say no is a fear of the consequences that saying no might have on a relationship, whether it's a loved one, a friend, even a stranger. That fear leads us to believe we only have two choices. Either we say no and it hurts the person and our relationship, or we say yes. Person's happy, we've got peace in the relationship, but we're frustrated. But if we were to approach the situation from a both and perspective, we could see other choices. For example, we could say no, and the person might not even care. We could say no, and they might start respecting our future yeses more. We might say no for now and take a rain check. Or maybe there's another option we're not even thinking of right now. Oftentimes, what's scariest for us is the assumption we've already made about the outcome. But if we were to realize that's just an assumption and pose that question, where's the both and here? Then we open ourselves up to possibility. At first, I could only see two choices with Greg. My coach helped me to realize there were other options. One of those was to set aside our assumptions and to turn towards each other with openness, curiosity, and talking about the hard things. And in our quest to turn towards each other, we discovered three fascinating individuals who helped us shift our relationship from disconnection to a deep connection. Two of those individuals are two of the world's leading marriage researchers, Dr. John and Julie Gottman, whose work taught us the importance of seeing each other's inner world. They said, learning to understand and accept the ways in which we're different is key to lasting connection and enduring love. After attending their workshops, reading their books, Greg and I began to set intentional times to have conversations about our values and beliefs, our needs, our emotions. We explored our hopes, dreams, fears, and most importantly, we listened with openness and curiosity to truly see the world from each other's eyes. These conversations helped us to understand how our upbringing shaped our own beliefs and even our expectations of each other around family, work, money. I learned that Greg grew up being told he was perfect, which actually led to a fear of imperfection. I'd been criticizing him for being lazy. I'd assumed he wasn't working hard enough because he wasn't going at the pace that I expected. But he was actually working hard at overcoming his fear, which is what needed to get done for him to make progress. And Greg realized my upbringing taught me love is shown through action. And beneath all my criticisms and judgments was a fear that he didn't love us enough to take more action. And because of my career at Google, Greg assumed that only a Google equivalent would be good enough for me. And now he realized all I wanted was to just know he was trying. Oftentimes, we make assumptions without knowing what's happening beneath the surface. But if we were to just seek to understand, we'd realize our differences don't have to rupture our relationships. Our differences can actually be a great gift for creating connection. The third individual we came across was Esther Perel, a psychotherapist and relationship expert. And she taught us the gift of conflict. She said that conflict, when navigated skillfully, can lead to resilience, growth, and a strong bond. And that the key to navigating conflict is to ensure both sides feel seen and heard. Both perspectives are validated without blame. And that doesn't mean that we have to be in 100% agreement. It just means we have to understand. I remember this time, I saw Greg watching a show on his laptop instead of doing job applications. As I walked towards him, he switched screens. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to criticize. And then I remembered the importance of setting aside assumptions and sharing perspective without blame. So I said to him, when I saw you watching the show and switch screens, I felt suspicious and scared because I want to feel safe, knowing we'll be financially okay when the baby arrives. He looked at me and nodded, then validated. I could see why you'd feel suspicious and scared if you saw me switching screens. And then he explained, I was working all morning and I just needed a break. When you were walking over, I saw your eyebrows furrow. So I just instinctively switched screens because I didn't want you to think I wasn't working. I want you to trust me. I smiled in understanding, validated him. Then we worked together to come up with a solution to meet both of our needs. When we set aside our assumptions and blame, and we take that courageous step to listen with openness, curiosity, we can build the deepest of bonds with anyone, filled with compassion, mutual understanding, and respect. With this newfound understanding, Greg and I began to work as a team. And we even taught each other how to become better as individuals from our differences. He taught me how to chill out and let go of control, and I taught him how to be afraid and do it anyways. And just a few weeks before our kiddo was born, he landed an amazing job. And now, with baby number 2 on the way, he continues to take my breath away, always for a good reason. Thing is, we know a lot less than we think we know about others. So I encourage you, the next time you find yourself making an assumption about someone, pause and ask, am I making this assumption based on my own perspectives and beliefs? And is there something that could be true that I'm not aware of? At the end of the day, we don't have to be in 100% agreement to come to common ground and mutual empathy. We just need to be willing to understand and to set aside our differences. This shift in perspective holds the potential to significantly improve all of your relationships. Now, Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Thank you.